Controversy has marred the 2022 FIFA World Cup, with captains of England, Wales, Belgium, Denmark, Germany and the Netherlands saying in a joint statement that they will not wear the One Love anti-discrimination armband in their World Cup opening games. The move by the European teams comes after FIFA's warning that the captains would be given yellow cards if they took part in the One Love armband initiative. The national federation said they were prepared to pay a fine for their captains to wear the One Love armband, but once it became clear that their captains would be sanctioned, they had to change their plans. But even as the West caves into Qatari pressure, Iran's national soccer team chose not to sing their country's anthem before their opening World Cup match against England on Monday, in an apparent show of support for protesters back home. Crowds of Iranian fans stood in solidarity with their teams and women back home, booing the national anthem as it was played. As chaos defines the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, the question is, does Qatar think it can bully other nations too? Joining us at this point is Ambassador Bhashpati Mukherjee, former diplomat. We also have Major Mohammad Ali Shah, defence analyst, joining us live. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, is also with us on the broadcast. Ambassador Mukherjee, let me begin with you first on how you are viewing this extremely controversial World Cup and these developments that seem to be occurring every single day in Qatar.
Well, I think it was a very powerful symbol of protest, very dignified way of protesting on the part of the Iranian team. It was also tricky and dangerous for them because they're going to go back home and face the wrath of the regime. They met the head of state, I'm told, of the government before they left. And at that time, there was no indication that they would make this decision. This was clearly a joint decision made together, and it reflects the fact that the women's movement in Iran has got support of a large number of Iranians, regardless of their gender. It's no longer a women's movement. It's become a people's movement. And that's very important, because if the Iranian women want to get what they want, they need the support of the Iranian people, men and women. And it seems to me that it's fast becoming a mass people's movement. So it is for the Iranian regime to now decide what they should do. Should they make a gesture to indicate sympathy, support, sorrow, take a step backwards, try for reconciliation, or do they want to push ahead? Because the more they stand mute, or the more they perpetrate violence on protesters, the more apparent is the popularity of the mass movement. So this is a call that they have to take. As for the other issue, which I'm sure you'll come to later, that again was surprising, that the protests which we had thought would be made about Black Lives Matter, that has apparently fizzled out, but not the Iranian protests. So I would salute the courage of the Iranian team for the gesture of support they made, looking at the sky, looking downwards, but keeping quiet. It takes a lot of courage not to sing your national anthem at an international event when you are a proud citizen of that country. It takes a lot of courage, and I salute that courage today.
Yes, indeed. Let me, in fact, also take that across to Joyita Basu. Joyita, because, you know, this is a very strong statement that has come in, hasn't it, from the Iranians, from the football team, from the fans there at the stadium, and because the entire world is watching and this is being broadcast everywhere, really sending out a message not just to their own country but to the world as well.
Well, Uday, if you ask me, England won the match, of course, 6-2 against Iran. But the fact is, Iran won everybody's heart. So I think they made a remarkable appearance over there. I mean, at a time when nobody is really talking about what is happening in Iran. The very fact that this movement has continued for months now, I think almost 3 months or perhaps more than that, this movement has been continuing, and it is not slowing down. It is spreading all across the country. It has started cutting across all sections of society, and even the gender barrier it has broken, and it has also certain parts of their armed, police and all also have got involved. So I think it's a major thing, and it's amazing. you know, the way they stood there and they refused to sing the anthem without thinking of the possible consequences, the things that might happen to them after they go back home. You know, I think it's an act of defiance, it's an act of protest, and an international arena, World Cup football, I think they hit all the notes right.
Yes, Mohammad Ali Shah, come in here on your take on, of course, the developments in, in the FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar, but also this particular match and this message. What really was the symbolism, according to you?
Uday, I think it needs a lot of. I'm totally in agreement with all my fellow panelists over here, Master Mukherjee, Jyota Basu. They said it all, in fact, and it takes a lot of courage to actually go to a different country and where the entire world is watching you, where the entire focus is on you, and not actually participating in singing your own country's national anthem. Because at the end of the day, everyone loves their country, everyone loves their own national anthem. So I'm sure, similarly, even these players, I'm 100% sure of course, they love their national anthem. But then, as a mark of protest against the dictatorship regime in Iran, where they are brutal tortures, and the same as torture does not mean that you lock somebody in prison and you start torturing that person. Torture can even be mental torture, where you're not giving freedom to your women, where to choose. I mean, to what they want to do. It is when we talk about women's rights, we talk about the 21st century, we talk about women empowerment, we talk about so many, but look at this. I mean, their leadership, their government is only being regressive, and when they stand in solidarity, again, a very dignified way of not singing the national anthem, but looking at the sky, looking at the ground, looking here, there, but standing there. So I think most certainly, and again, as Jyota Basu said, that though 6-2 was the score, England won the match, but Iran won the hearts of the world. तो दिल की जो हार के भी जीतने वाले को बाजीगर कहते हैं. That's what is a very famous line by Shah Rukh Khan, in fact, from the movie Bazigar. So I think they lost the match, but they won overall the hearts of millions across the world.
Right. Now, coming also to the anti-discrimination armbands as well, Jyota. The fact that so many teams have decided not to wear those One Love anti-discrimination armbands, do you believe that is the Qatari pressure working? That is the FIFA pressure working?
Yes, that One Love armband, because this is One Love armband which the international teams wanted to sport as a mark of protest against Qatar's anti-discrimination against homosexuality and criminalization of homosexuality. That was the protest movement. It has been it has been happening for a while. And several teams already have taken part in matches in the run-up to the World Cup. They have taken part in matches where they have sported these bands. So you see there's a serious movement going on internationally against Qatar. But obviously Qatar put pressure on FIFA, and they made them, the FIFA, and then the FIFA of course went to the respective team managements, and then they forced them not to wear it. Because you see, these people, these players, if they wear it, they just might be thrown to jail. So just imagine the kind of conditions that Qatar has imposed on this World Cup, and you see, as a result of which, what has happened is that it is, at a time when it is supposed to showcase its culture, its heritage, its history, at a time when it is supposed to put its best foot forward and organize an impeccable World Cup, when people should be concentrating about the game, when the international press should be talking only about the game. All that nowadays we are talking about, what are the kind of bans and the impositions that Qatar has imposed on everyone. And just imagine the kind of money they have spent. They have spent $220 billion on this particular World Cup, which is more than a combination of 8 World Cups, what 8 previous World Cups have spent, more than that. Their total GDP is something in the range of 274, and they have spent $220 billion in this World Cup. Think of the money that they have spent in this, and look at the kind of negative coverage they are getting. Okay, but they deserve it. If you ask me, they totally deserve it. They are not allowing Jewish people to hold their Sabbath prayers. They are not allowing them their food choices, kosher food. They have banned it. They have, and for everything, you know, any infraction, something you do not follow in that country, the threat of prison is already hanging on everyone's head. Okay, so frankly, if you ask me next time, I mean, whichever country is given this World Cup, you know, which is right now the biggest possible assembly of fans happened, 1.2 million fans have landed in Qatar, and look at the way how Qatar is behaving. Let us hope all of us have learnt a lesson, the FIFA in particular, that more than money there is something called, you know, fraternity, brotherhood, respect, which Qatar is not able to provide to a single country.
Yes, Ambassador Mukherjee, you know, come in here on, of course, this pressure that Qatar is obviously exerting over the West, is exerting over these football nations, their teams through FIFA, which is leading them to succumb, which is leading them to change their strategy, which is obviously forcing their players not to wear those armbands, which were for a good cause.
Well, Uday, if the cause is good, if the cause is worth it, then those who are honest and upright do not change their minds, and they go ahead with what is correct and what has to be done. We can well imagine the mental turmoil of the Iranian team when they took this courageous decision, because they will face the music when they go back to Iran. So, are we here looking at developed countries, rich nations, an organization made of multimillionaires and billionaires, FIFA, which is caving in to Qatari's pressure? How many captains would they take out? What would happen if they took out all the captains? What would happen? The entire World Cup would collapse, because you would have a World Cup played with a majority of captains out of the game. It's not going to happen. What has happened is that these Western nations have shown that they succumb to pressure, while a developing country has shown that it stands up to pressure. That's the only difference. That's the difference, Uday, between doing something that is morally and ethically correct and standing up for it, and caving in. So all I can conclude is that the Dolce Vita, which the West has enjoyed, the good life, all these years, have made them soft. They can't stick to hard decisions. We in India are not like that. When we take a decision, we stick to it. And as I said, I think it was very brave of the Iranian team to do what they did. They did the right thing. They did not succumb to pressure, either Qatari's pressure or their own regime's pressure. And I think that it was such a mistake to host the games in Qatar, because so many agreements were made with the Qataris which they've gone back on, including the whole issue of the main sponsor, that is, I think, Budweiser beer, not being allowed to sell beer during the matches, etc. I'm not a beer drinker, I don't care. But if there was an agreement, it should be respected. Either the Qataris have to accept international regulations, or they should say we are a purely whatever Islamic country which does not believe in alcohol, and then it will be hosted elsewhere. You can't have it both ways, in my opinion. So I think I would blame FIFA, because they had succumbed to Qatari's pressure. And I don't want to speculate here on national television what kind of pressure the Qataris must have put on FIFA to make them accept Qatar as a venue. I have dealt with the Qataris when I was helping them to get their first World Heritage Site, and I can tell you, they have so much to offer if you show that you're interested. It's amazing.
Yes, yes. Interesting point there, Joyita, that, you know, the fact is that many are comparing as well, that the Iranians stuck their ground, but the Western nations have caved in.
Absolutely. Because you see, ultimately what has happened is, you see, this World Cup would not have been possible without, if I am going to use that word, the collusion of the Western nations. And this is the whole point, you know, whenever it comes, if you go to the Arab world and particularly the Gulf countries, you will see these Westerners, these white skin people with white skin, they are treated like some kind of a demigod. Okay, and there Indians are mostly the laborers, the workers and all, and when it comes to that, when it comes to the Western people, even if they are for that matter, even if they are, I have seen it with my own eyes, even if they are from say Brazil, which is a developing country, but if the skin color is white, you should just see how these people behave with these, you know, how kind of all these I mean, but people from that particular region, how subservient they are towards these people. So, and the Westerners, they enjoy it. So, that is also one of the reasons when they go to Qatar and places like Qatar and all, they can be, you know, like the old British Raj we had, they can be the Bada Mem Saab and the Bada Saab, that kind of urban atmosphere they get, and they enjoy it. So, you see that really, that is a huge thing with the West and the Arab Gulf in particular, and for that matter even Qatar has, I think, one of the largest US bases in that region, perhaps the largest. So, it has always had very close relationship with the US, but having said that, most interesting something they have done, because they are so conservative, these people, as I just mentioned in the earlier part, that you know they have stopped Jewish people from holding Sabbath prayers. They are not allowing them kosher food, basically being just like treating them like animals. So, what has happened? A large contingent of American Jewish people, they were some rich, wealthy Americans, were supposed to come to Qatar to watch the matches. They all cancelled. They all cancelled their arrival, they did not visit, because this is how Qatar is treating the Jewish people. So, you see, so the whole point is that you see the Qatar, in spite of the money it has the highest per capita income in the world, primarily because it has got so few people. I think something around 3 million people or something like that. So, that is the reason why, and it is all oil money. And the thing is, you see, in spite of all that, Qatar is right now making news for all the wrong reasons, absolutely wrong reasons, and frankly, as I am going to say again, I do not have any sympathies for them. I mean, they invited Zakir Naik, after all, over there, a terrorist sympathizer, a televangelist who has been talking about things like Muslims should become terrorists. He has been supporting Osama bin Laden, the reason why he was banned in England, and that man is now in Qatar giving sermons, religious sermons. Earlier also, Qatar, if I remember correctly, sometime I think in June, July, when this Nupur Sharma protests broke, Qatar had summoned our ambassador. Apart from that, there was, our vice president was in Qatar at that time, and a lunch or a dinner with the Emir of Qatar, it was cancelled. The ostensible reason was given was that, oh, because there was some medical reason, but there are other reasons. So, basically they insulted our vice president also. We shouldn't be, we already have sent our Mr. Dhankar to Qatar. I hope for the next duration of the tournament, no official representation happens in Qatar from India's side.
Okay, Mohammad Ali Shah, you know, your take on, of course, the two contrasting stands by the West and by Iran, of course, which has come through this U-turn, and also the kind of pressure and the reason for it being exerted by Qatar on FIFA, and then of course on these countries simply for blocking one love armband.
Absolutely, Uday. You know, I totally agree that, you know, Qatar is in the news for all the wrong reasons. Now, what is the need to go and invite Zakir Hussain for a football match for FIFA? I mean, a person who's a fugitive.
His name is Zakir Naik.
So I'm so sorry. Zakir Naik, I'm so sorry. It was a mispronunciation from my side. What is the need of going and calling Zakir Naik? I mean, I don't understand the logic behind it. Was it to provoke us when they know very well it's going to be controversial? Well, if they think it was for sportsmen, if they think it was for getting entertainment, if they perceive Zakir Naik to be an entertainer of sorts, or they perceive him to be a joker of all sorts, what is the? I don't get it. What they are trying to do, and I feel the day is not far again where the people of Qatar themselves will start protesting against the regime. They are going the hard way. You know, I have no problem at all with anybody being conservative over there. But then at the same time, why are you, not you, I mean them, interfering with other religious practices? Why are they prohibiting? Why are they not allowing the Jews to perform the Sabbath? Go ahead, be as conservative, be an arc conservative if you want to, in your own personal space. Don't interfere with anybody else's religion, anybody else's faith. That's something which is really ridicule, which is to be ridiculed and should be called out. And I am certain the entire international community, the entire world is watching them and laughing at them. They are becoming a laughing stock. And if that is going to be the case, they will not get any support further. It's all momentarily, it's all temporarily. What they are enjoying, the perks and the privileges that they're enjoying of hosting FIFA right now, whatever they would have the glory for the time being right now, it's only for the time being over there. This thing will not last. And yes, I think that, Qatar, the Doha Pact was signed in Doha Pact of February, a couple of years back with the Taliban, was in Qatar only, So they are giving rise. They are promoting, in a way, radicalism. I would go on a step further and I would say why they had to go ahead and do a pact with Taliban, which is a terrorist organization, well known, which is many of them were in the UN list as well, the Haqqani network. The Haqqanis were part of Taliban, I would say, they're part of the government. So Qatar is digging their own grave. They are being self-destructive. And I think it's about time, and very soon there are going to be protests over there as well.
Yes, Jyota Basu wanting to come in.
Yeah, I wanted to make a quick point about, let's not forget what happened in 2017. 2017, the Arab world, and particularly the Gulf countries from Saudi Arabia to UAE, everybody, all of them, they kind of cut off all diplomatic relations with Qatar in 2017, saying that Qatar practices terrorism, that Qatar is instigating terrorism against all these countries. Also, it's a different matter also that Qatar also had relations with Iran, and in fact there is speculation that one of the reasons that they went for, because you see Qatar and Saudi Arabia have had very difficult relations, and now there is speculation that one of the reasons why Qatar went for this World Cup was that, because they were worried that Saudi Arabia will come and conquer them, and so they cannot possibly conquer a country which has hosted the World Cup. Having said that, it was only in January 2021 that the relations were restored, that Saudi Arabia and all, they accepted Qatar's, basically, so Qatar is not a very, pious country. It kind of breeds a lot of radicalism.
Yes, it certainly does. Okay, let's start getting closing comments now. Ambassador Mukherjee.
Well, all I can say is that Qatar has got its moment of glory because every country does not get to host the World Cup. So, regardless of what consequences will follow after it finishes the game, the point is it got what it wanted. And it got what it wanted, although the West, which agreed to Qatar hosting the World Cup, knew very well that the Qataris are trying to develop an anti-Western alliance, and they have also split the OIC in the middle, and this anti-Western alliance is supported by Iran and by China. So the point here again, to come back to the topic of the discussion, is that it took a lot of courage for the Iran football team to do what they did in a country which is closely allied with its own regime. As far as the West is concerned, they go where the money is. And the Qataris have lots of money to throw around. If the West were really serious about reining them in, then why on earth did they turn a blind eye when there were peace talks going on between Taliban and the West through Qatari mediation? Why on earth did they keep quiet when the Qataris decided to help the Taliban set up the airport back in Kabul? There are so many instances of duplicitous behavior on the part of Qatar, which the West have ignored, which brings me back to the same issue, which is that as far as Qatar is concerned, we are dealing with a nation that is anti-Western, that is hostile to the West, that is hostile to liberal Western thought, and yet the West went along and agreed to Qatar hosting it. And that exposes Western hypocrisy, and it also exposes the fact that for the West, what matters, unfortunately, is short-term advantage instead of looking at a long-term perspective. And that is not good in the long term, Uday, for international peace and security. Uday.
Last word to you, Joyita. I'll have to end then.
The thing is, you see, next time it is hoped that, you see, when the FIFA is awarding an important tournament like the World Cup to any country, they will not fall for the love of the, okay, look, if I can use that word, and actually do a thorough investigation of where they are going, that they are giving the World Cup to, which country is going to be awarded the World Cup. There has to be some kind of football tradition. If India suddenly wakes up today and say we are going to hold the World Cup in India, it's not going to work like that now, is it? We don't have any tradition of football in this country. Similarly, Qatar is nowhere. It just once won the World Cup, I think in 10 years, in 10 tournaments they won only once. In 2019 they won. So, and as for the Iranian players, what they have done, it's extremely courageous. The world needs to take note of it, and they need to take note of the fact of what is going on in Iran is serious, because right now it seems like all of us are forgetting about the gender revolution that is happening in Iran.
All right, let's leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.